This title is narrated with virtual voice, a computer-generated narration for audiobooks. Relics by John Vandeventer. Prologue. The world outside had its own rules, and those rules were not human. Michel Houellebecq, Sunday, July 13, 2014, 7:50 p.m. CST, 14.000 feet, over southeast Oklahoma. Captain Jacob Nesbitt fought back a yawn and shook his head. He had spent the weekend showing his F-16 Fighting Falcon to the public. He and his aircraft were part of the static ground display for the annual Star-Spangled Salute Air Show at Tinker, AFB, Oklahoma. Weekend duty of any kind was not exactly top-shelf entertainment for the young captain, but it wasn't as bad as he had expected either. He would have preferred a weekend admiring bikinis on the beaches of South Carolina near his home base of Shaw AFB. Instead, he'd spent the past 2 days explaining the performance of his aircraft along with the role of his unit, the 55th Fighter Squadron, to what, mostly, was an enthusiastic public in Oklahoma. With the country enduring a long war, many in public were forgetting about the young people still fighting. Impressing the taxpayers with a display of his units and aircraft's capabilities was every bit as important as a bomb right through Haji's cave window. Nesbitt believed in what he was doing, and he knew it was easy for many people to forget about all the troops still fighting in Afghanistan. Those guys over there needed him to be at his best here, just as much as they did when he used his F-16 to clear a group of Taliban off their backs in combat. The many attractive local girls who had stopped and viewed his aircraft during the display pleasantly surprised him. He'd made a point of telling them his F-16 was the same aircraft the USAF Thunderbirds were flying while performing their aerial demonstrations over the weekend. Although there were no bikinis on the flight line, the long, hot summers of Oklahoma made for some very nice t-shirt and shorts combinations on many of the young women visiting the air show. On both Saturday and Sunday, shortly after the Thunderbirds finished their performance, a few of the ladies who had visited his aircraft earlier returned, giving him their Facebook information and sometimes even phone numbers. There were certainly some very interesting young women there. Oklahoma wasn't bad. I may have to return one day, he thought, smiling to himself. Passing 14.500 feet, Captain Nesbitt prepared to level out at 15.000 feet, to stay under the commercial air traffic headed into and out of DFW Airport to his south. He would hold this altitude until the low sector controller in Fort Worth, Texas, cleared him to 25.000 feet. Once he was at his planned cruise altitude, they would hand him off to a Memphis high sector controller. At that point, he would be well on his way home. Eager to get back to Shaw, he looked at the darkening terrain below him. The further he got away from Tinker, AFB, and Oklahoma City, the sparser the population and the smaller the towns became. Sheesh, what the hell does a guy do down there for fun on a Saturday night? These were the last leisurely thoughts he would ever have. Nesbitt's aircraft made a loud bang, followed by an ominous silence with the absence of engine noise. Immediately, the automated female voice pilot called Bitching Betty started her robotic chant of, "Warning! Warning!" in his helmet speakers. The words also appeared in his heads-up display, or HUD. Nesbitt was no longer the bored captive of a cross-country flight. The aircraft now had his full attention. The experience from hundreds of hours of flying in simulators and the endless training flights in F-16s, as well as his real-world combat operations in both Iraq and Afghanistan, now kicked in. Captain Nesbitt took a deep breath and calmed himself. Yes, he was a little rattled, but he was also an experienced and battle-tested fighter pilot. He galloped through the steps to restart his engine. His left hand automatically pulled the throttle back to idle and switched on his emergency power unit, EPU, from normal to on. The hours of training were paying off. Nesbitt quickly went through the many steps required to bring his aircraft's F-110G-100 engine back to life. The powerful turbofan seemed to respond. He was about to breathe a sigh of relief when his engine went dead again. Single-engine, single-seat aircraft require one engine to do all the work and one person to do all the thinking. It occurred to Nesbit that in his hate...
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.